Sit there with a guitar and talk to your friends for 50 minutes straight. And then put the guitar away and tell them what the different guitar is.
I love
No, you can really do it really well. Students in the beginning club and 10 students in the advanced club. Fluctuates between like 30 and 40. And the only reason it sometimes fluctuates is because sometimes the advanced club comes in and helps out.
You know, they'll come and hey, Ron, what's going on? How are you? Thanks.
Oh, you're a ginger. Well, think about it. If my husband was the no lottery, if my husband was the lottery, I keep telling him, I told him they were living less than Monday morning, I would be about I know, he's like, I'm good
Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the March 27th board meeting. I apologize for us being a little late coming out of closed session. It was Mr. Nava's fault. All right. Thank you for taking that, Joe. I appreciate it. Okay, roll call. We have everybody present except for Miss Castle, who is not with us tonight, taking care of some grandparent business, I understand. Student representatives, Melissa and Jasmine, welcome to the meeting. And Pledge of Allegiance. Jasmine, would you lead us in that?
Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. Report on actions from closed sessions, personnel matters, appointment of public information officer / grant writer, Nicole Collins. Mr. Nava motion, Mr. Talkin seconded, and the board approved by a vote of 6-0 and 1 absent. The appointment of Nicole Collins as public information officer / grant writer, effective date to be determined. Also, actions out of closed session. Conference with legal counsel. Mr. Nava motioned, Mr. Talkin seconded, and the board voted to reject claim number CTA 1800240 by the following vote. Ayes 6, noes 0, absent 1. And those are the actions out of closed session. Okay, next item on our agenda. A recognition, Lifesaver Award will be presented to Scott McGregor.
Thank you, Mr. President and board members. My name is Bill Cummins. I'm the pastor of Bear Creek Church, and I have Ann Pacheco with me, who is the director of our Bear Creek Water Program. For the last 9 years, we've been recycling bottles and cans and taking those funds and drilling drinking water wells in 21 developing countries throughout the world. And Ann Pacheco, our director, is going to present a award to Scott and share what the school has done over the years. Ann?
Yeah, it's been really wonderful. Charlie Hunter started the program. We've been in existence 9 years, and they've been doing the program they've been contributing to the program for almost 9 years, since almost the beginning. They have collected well over 1,000 bags of recycling, which we pick up every week. And we recycle those, and every single penny goes to drilling wells in third world countries. We are able to cover our own costs other ways, and so it all goes. That's a promise we made since the beginning. The really cool thing is that we are now working on well 97, and that basically we have covered the cost of drilling wells for almost the size of Lodi. Over 60,000 people now have clean water who did not have clean water before. And if you can think of the city of Lodi not having any clean drinking water, but they do today because of recycling. And Lodi Middle, we just want to thank Scott and Lodi Middle School
Come
and
on up,
Charlie
Scott.
and Heather.
Can't get it from back there, bud.
Just for being supportive and encouraging the kids to recycle and really change lives. So there you are.
Scott, that's fantastic. I'm sorry, Pastor, what was your name?
Bill Cummins.
Bill, I tell you what, that's fantastic. And your name was?
Ann Pacheco.
I'm sorry?
Ann Pacheco.
Ann? Ann, thank you so much for what you guys do. That's fantastic. There's a lot of people out there, 60,000 that are thanking you as well. So that's a great cause. Moving right along. I think we have the public hearing now. Lodi Education Association reopeners for the 2018-2019 year. On March 6, 2018, the Board of Education acknowledged receipt of the 2018-19 reopener for the Lodi Education Association. I'm going to go ahead and declare this public meeting open. Any comments from the public? Comments from board members? Saying none, close this public hearing. Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I just want to give you an update on our WASC process. You know that our high schools go through an accreditation process. Tokay and Bear Creek have completed theirs, and they both received rave reviews from their WASC visiting teams. Tokay's team was very impressed with the school, commented on the school culture, how they care about children, take care of their students, really are invested in their children and want them to succeed. They commented on excellent leadership and just a family feel at Tokay High School. Bear Creek also had an excellent review. The reviewers commented on the positive school culture. They were impressed with all the activities that the students are involved with, the leadership of both staff and students, and the courses that Bear Creek offers. So both schools had a wonderful WASC visit. I want to let you know that one of our very own staff members has received a recognition from the California Department of Education. Jose Maciel from our curriculum department, as you know, he works on our extended learning programs, which includes after-school programs. And our programs are being recognized as being outstanding, and that's all due to Jose's work. So congratulations to Jose. I want to let you know that we have our certificated job fair coming up this Thursday afternoon, and we are looking forward to that. We have our art contest, our very first art contest, which is in conjunction with Got Kids, on April 7th and 8th at the Elkhorn Golf Club. We are getting ready to put the art up. Art has been coming in, and it looks fantastic. We have a lot of talent out there, so hopefully we'll get some folks in to look at their art. I also want to let you know that we have the deadline has passed for the 8th, I think, annual now Superintendent's Poetry Contest. So we have our poems in. And what I want to mention at this point is that our students are writing about society's issues. And the themes and the tones that has come across in their writing is extremely mature and deep in thought. They are writing about issues that are happening all over the world as well as in our backyards, school safety, political issues. So our children are really using opportunities of writing to express their thoughts about our society. And that was really interesting this year. And we'll get you the winners pretty soon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Washer. Comments from the public. I have 2 cards up here. First of all, we have one from Martha Simon. Hey, Martha.
Good evening, Mr. Neely and members of the board and Dr. Washer. I have 2 topics tonight, and they both involve discovery education. I wanted to have this opportunity tonight to thank the board and Dr. Washer for agreeing to host what is called the Discovery Education NGSS Academy that will be at Christopher McCullough Middle School on April 21st. We went on break on March 9th, and at that point in time we had 44 educators from our district signed up for that before it even got opened up to any of the local school districts in our area. And I have it on good authority from Ms. Katowski in an email during the break that she's going to resend that. That particular NGSS Academy has a little string attached to it for us that's really great. And it's going to involve the fact that after that day in April, we will have at a no obligation 60-day free trial for everything that Discovery Education has at all of our schools in our district. So K-12, we can take a look at the science textbook, the math textbook, and the social studies textbook and see if that would be a fit for us in terms of a supplemental text to the other things that we already got going. But even if we didn't do that, even if we just said we wanted a digital library, we could get that from Discovery Education for a pretty reasonable cost. And that would eliminate a cost to all of our schools for going out and buying a lot of those videos that in some ways just end up sitting on the shelf, or they're lost and we can't meet the pacing guidelines. The other thing I wanted to mention about Discovery Education is this is the 4th year that we've offered a staff development course through Fresno Pacific University. This year it's called Tech 1842, and there are 17 educators that will be meeting again tomorrow night for their 3rd session. It's a 2-unit course that the educators can choose to get the college credit from Fresno Pacific University. And they're doing a blended learning course where they take classes online, and then we have our sessions, and they go back into our schools and they act as leaders to help teachers at each one of our school sites that's participating. We have 9 at the current time, to get educators involved in not what is really the tech stuff, because you can use YouTube and all of those things. You can actually use just paper-based strategies, and what is good teaching, it's bringing good teaching back to the classroom. So I wanted to make sure to share those 2 things with you tonight. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Martha, what's the date in April again?
April 21st.
21st, thank you.
And by all means, you are most welcome to come, but you should sign up, that way you get one.
And that's why we're here. Going for that free lunch. Thank you, Martha. The other card that we have is from Lisa Garau.
Grassi.
Okay.
I'll be here every meeting, so you'll eventually get it.
Okay. Thanks, Grassi.
Hi, Lisa Grassi. I'm a rural area student, mom of a Houston school, 2 Houston school kids, and Lodi High kid. I'm here to discuss rural area busing. When you guys came up with your bus hubs, I know it was lean times, as you say, and they just are not working anymore. This is the issue that really needs to be addressed. Next year I have a special needs kindergartner going to Houston, and my 6th grader will be at Houston, especially with the possible implementation of Joe Cerna coming to Acampo, to Houston's campus. Traffic's going to increase, which it's already dangerous out there. Right now the guidelines is my 5-year-old, in order to get to school, will either have to walk to Houston on the frontage road, and walk home at 1 o'clock, or walk over a mile down to Kenneflick Road and on a highway, or basically it's like a highway. It's a rural area road with a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. I am pleading with you, please take a look at your rural area busing. There's got to be something you can do for rural area kids where it's door to school. It's just not safe for them to walk down the street to catch a bus. Like I said, until it gets brought up on the agenda, I commit to be here at every board meeting until it's something that you guys do take a look at. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lisa. Any more public comments? Okay, seeing none, consent agenda A. Are there any items that board members would like pulled from this agenda? Okay, I'm going to pull item A7. Are there any items the public would like pulled from the agenda? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the rest of routine agenda A.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. Mr. Talkin. That's kind of getting to be a duo there.
Dual.
All right.
Dynamic.
Student vote?
Aye.
And
Aye.
there we go. 2-0. All right, calling for the board vote. And it passes 6-0 and 1 absent. All right. Item A7. Can you bring that up, please? Ms. Kotowski, are you out there?
Yes, I'm right here.
Can you come up here, please?
Can I bring my gentleman that
You can bring whoever you'd like.
Bob and Tom, would you like to join us? Sure. Would you like us over here?
Wherever you'd like. There's a table right there. Sit down and be comfortable. Okay, I won't be here that long.
Mr. Neely.
I want to start.
Okay.
I bring this item up because this is the AP World History looking for a new textbook. And I understand that. I don't know how old the one that you're using is, but you certainly need it, and I have no apprehension about what you need. That's not the point. That's not the reason I brought this up. I've been working for several years now to get this district to move to a more digital delivery system for our curriculum. Now, at first, I allowed us to take some steps here and said, okay, yes, PDF, you're right, that's electronic, that's digital, and we can do that. PDF has never been what I had in mind when I said about digital delivery of curriculum. It's about a much larger thing. I mean, if we were simply going to use PDF files, we could give everybody a handheld device, a Kindle or whatever, and we could go from there, and that'd be fine. But that's not what we did. You know, we invested a lot of money in Chromebooks, invested a lot of money in infrastructure. And the goal of doing this was to eventually get us to a point where we used a digital delivery curriculum. And the difference, in my mind, I've thought about this analogy a lot. It's like when we went in transportation, we went from a horse and carriage to a car. All right? Some people said, you know what, I like this horse. This horse is a friend of mine. It's easy to use, I'm used to using it. I just want to stick with the horse. And then, if we'd have all done that, where would we be now? So having the Chromebooks and things like we do is kind of like taking horses and hooking them up to that car. You know, and using them just to pull the car. That's not what we're after here. We're after trying to get to a new system. So I'm going to ask, I mean, I Googled real quickly. I Googled online AP World History textbook. And I came up with this thing from study.com that one looked pretty good. It had videos attached to every lesson. There was complete curriculum set up there. Used multimedia aspects of it and all of that. That's more what I had in mind when I suggest this. Now, I'm not going to try to, at this point yet, I'm not going to try to force anything down anybody's, that you've got to do something. What I would ask you to do in the board, I'd like to change this. I'd like to make a motion to change this, that we grant you the money to buy those books if you want to buy those books. But we grant it in a way that maybe you'll look at this other avenue. So the money is there. And I'm pretty sure we can do this, right, Dr. Washer? As long as we grant the money for an AP curriculum of about that amount of money, then you can either spend it on the textbooks or you can take that step. And we're talking about AP students. What better place to check this? What better place for us to stick our toe in the water and check this new thing out, this digital delivery curriculum. So,
Mr. Newman, if I may speak?
Yes, ma'am, please.
I don't know if this is on or not.
I'm getting tired of listening to myself.
Okay. I'm going to let Bob and Todd speak to that, but I believe what they're looking at is a textbook and a digital curriculum at the same time. It's a transition to a complete digital curriculum, but I'll let them speak and talk about the process that they went through and how the curriculum is digital and textbook. So this is Bob, and that's Todd.
Hi, Bob. Hi, Todd.
Hello.
Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate that.
Do we need to speak into the microphone? Is that an idea?
It's good so that we can.
So they can
Hear the back.
Well, yeah, and then we have you on tape in case, we want
I say something. Sure. Yeah. So this AP World History course is it's a brand new course at Lodi High. And it's taking the place of AP European History. As Ms. Katowski stated, it does have an online component that goes to it. There is an online classroom that is part of the curriculum. Bless you. It's when we were looking at textbooks and we were looking at what to choose, we went off the College Board's recommended lists, and this one is right up there. In fact, we know of a student who used this book and passed the exam with a 3 when the student was in 8th grade.
Wow.
So as far as materials go, we thought this was proven, and it's got a good good history to it. Now, as far as incorporating technology, absolutely, we absolutely plan on doing that. In fact, I've been talking with Charles Taylor about maybe creating a website, that the entire class will use. I'm concerned about going completely digital, and here's my concerns. And my concern is this: I've been piloting textbooks with my students, my U.S. history students, because we're doing their textbook adoption, and across the board, all of my students said, I really like this book, or I don't care for this book, but what they didn't want was they didn't want to be without a textbook. They're like, there's too much online. And I said, well, really? I go, this is like, they're like, well, some online is fine, that's okay. Like, but we're on the computer all day, and it crashes on me sometimes, and I'm trying in the middle of doing something, and those were kind of some of the concerns as far as going completely, digital. Now, I mean, we are absolutely in the 21st century. It's time to move in that direction. I agree with you 100%. And I think that Pearson does a good job with that. Like I said, there is the online classroom. You can assign different assignments there. There is an online textbook. I believe it's, you can click on it, it will read it to you. So it has a lot of those features that I think are going to benefit our students. So, I think going with a new, we want to make sure it's a successful class. We want to make sure that our students pass at a very high rate. So,
If I may add to that,
our committee looked through a number of textbooks, and we found this one for reasons we expressed to you in our course of study and our textbook adoption, that it is an extremely well-written textbook, flows well, it seems like it's an accessible style for AP students. To use your analogy, the Pearson Publishing people want us to buy the horse and the car, so it's one of those situations where I don't know if they're personally wanting to go to digital only in the future, but for right now, it's not just them either, it's book and online together. It's a package. So I just wanted to clarify that as well.
Okay. One of the objections that you guys found about the book was it was extremely big. Is that right?
It was the smallest of the recommended
Oh,
books.
is that right? Wasn't that one of the things you found wrong, one of the cons?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on there, twice. And I understand, look, I'm not saying you shouldn't get what you want. I'm not gonna try to talk you out of that, but I'm gonna continue to bring this up because this is the direction we're going, guys. This is what's going to happen. So I'm not going to say that we should not give you the, I mean, you put a lot of work into it, and I'm very, very appreciative of that. And I would ask that as this goes forward, is that we continue to look at other alternatives. I got an email from a teacher whose child was in an AP government class, I believe it was, in Bear Creek. I believe it was government, it was an AP class. And her text listed Barack Obama as an up-and-coming young senator who might even be considered for president. So, you see my opposition. I taught at an all-digital high school with no textbooks, and it works. It really does. Now, all the teachers came from traditional classrooms, and it took a little bit of getting used to. And you talk about somebody helping you build a website. Well, I had a website for every class. And the kids went to that class, they got their assignments. It's a wonderful, wonderful way of teaching. And it really tasks you a lot to keep up with that because you gotta be you gotta be thinking ahead all the time. And you gotta spend some time on the computer too. But it's a great way of doing it. So, like I say, it looks like I would lose this argument, so I'm not even going to make a suggestion that we post the money up there and let you guys maybe reevaluate your decision, but that's all I've got. Comments from the board?
George, I have one thing. We have a tech committee, don't we? Shouldn't the tech committee be involved with the curriculum committee when they start adopting books like this?
That's
and
a
the
great
recommendations
idea,
are coming in, recommendations and come in. Hey, this is better to do it this way than to get the book, or vice versa.
That is a great idea. You're forgiven for being making a mistake.
Okay, so I'll make up for it.
All right, good idea.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming in. I have to admit, I'm pretty old school, and I like to read a book in a book. I like to read a newspaper, a real newspaper. Sounds like what you've come up with is a pretty good blend of old school textbooks and technology. And we can't ignore that technology is going to be here bigger and bigger every year. So it sounds like you've done a lot of research and you've got a good blend. So I want to approve this also. Thanks.
Mr. President.
Sir.
I would move approval of item A7. Do I get a second on that?
Second.
Okay. Public?
Hi, I'm Christy Doherty. I teach at Lawrence Elementary. I teach first grade, but I want to speak to the technology issue in that I get that we need things online, and the textbooks online are the most hopefully up-to-date information, or at least more current than a potentially outdated textbook. However, I can't tell you how many times my kids have gone to log onto their Chromebook, and for whatever reason, the end result of what we're trying to accomplish has not been possible. The website's down. The Chromebooks aren't logging in correctly, and to only have a textbook or a resource available online without having some kind of backup kind of hamstrings you. Okay, friends, we're gonna do this assignment in Think Central, and you're gonna log in, and the kids are all going, but wait, it's not working. So I don't want us to not have that resource available in some way, because we're depending upon a website that's down, or Clever login isn't working, or there was a power outage last night and the internet's not working. So I want to caution you that only having that technology resource puts us at a disadvantage when it's not working. Kind of going back to your analogy, if we want to get towards cars, we don't want to stick with the horses, but what if there is no gas? What are you going to do then? And there are times when my kids have been without the gas for the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Chrissy. Chrissy, while she's walking by, I tend to agree with you. I think you're right on.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
I happen to be on that technology committee, and I also serve on the curriculum council, and I want you to know at the curriculum council session, I brought up the very points that you brought up tonight, Mr. Mealy. I said, you're going to have to answer that question about digital versus book. I too question how much digital is really there, and yet I voted to approve the course and the textbook that's before you tonight with similar reasons, is that we do need to have a backup plan, still a little bit of that. My reason for coming up here right now is they're introducing an AP World History course, Lodi High. We still have AP European History. I think that's a question that needs to be addressed as well, is we should be able to offer the course at all 4 of our high schools. And is this a good solution for all 4 of our high schools, not just Lodi High? And I brought that up at the curriculum council meeting as well. I think we need to continue to pursue moving in the digital direction, because the reality is the students that are in high school right now and all those that will come after them, at least half of their college coursework is going to be online. And we need in Lodi Unified to address preparing our students for the world of education that's ahead of them as they move towards college. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha.
Good evening. Couple of points have already been made about cautioning with an all digital, and I think Christy made some of those points, and so did Martha. I'd like to remind us also that until the equity issue for all students to access all digital at home would put some students at a disadvantage to others in enrollment, and we need to make sure that we are able to answer that piece, that no matter what socioeconomic background you come from, you still have to have a way to access that digital component at home, and that concerns me. My quick poll of close relatives who are in college and have taken AP courses, interestingly enough, all said they want a real textbook. And with 3 kiddos in college currently, they all are using real textbook, none online, which I have found interesting over the past, 7 years. So I would just caution that we don't leap too far ahead before we have the infrastructure to address all students' needs.
As you walk away, just take too fast. No, you go ahead and walk away. I can talk. You said move too fast. I've been working on this for 7 years now. So no, we're not moving too fast. It took me 3 years to try to get the Chromebooks going out. It took 5 to actually get them out there. So we're not moving, I just want to let you know, we're not moving too fast.
We need to address the equity for all students.
And you know what, we
accessing
actually
it.
have, we're doing that. Our committee about taking home computers has been addressing that. So that's one thing that we're working on. That's kind of why I thought this might be a good place to start, with a small group. I believe it's about 80 textbooks you're buying, if I do the math right on it, because $157 a piece, which is interestingly around the price of a Chromebook. Dividing your 12,000 comes out to about 80. So I thought that might be a good place to try this out. Now, and I understand everybody's apprehension about, well, what do you do when this happens, that happens? I taught in an all-digital school for 5 years. And we didn't have a textbook in the whole school. And it works great. You have to do things. You come up with ideas like you have jump drives to push in case you are without power. You still got your computer on battery. So there's different things that you can do. The internet, it was, sometimes it would go out, but the vast majority of the time it worked. And we were all prepared for it because that's how we were trained. We were trained to work in a digital world. So I thought maybe using a small group, because the next time I bring this up, somebody's going to say, well, you know what? We need to try that out first. So I thought this might be the opportunity to try that. But I understand. I'm still not going to force anybody. I'm not going to push hard on it.
Well, I think,
but it does work.
Our
believe me.
infrastructure, I think, within the district is better prepared than, say, a student taking it home and trying to access that. That's the equity part that I was referring to.
Right, no, we're working on the home
Right.
access. And we had that same issue too. We had parents that didn't have internet access. They all used their phones. And so we had to come up with some solutions. We worked with some local companies and we got it worked out. It can be done.
I just,
And you know when
I caution.
You know when it gets done?
When everyone
It's when
wants it.
somebody finally says, let's do it. And that's when it gets done.
Right,
We
and
didn't
I
buy a
think-
single textbook one, but anyway.
Yeah, we've talked about that at Tech.
Yeah.
And we've addressed the changes, and I think we're progressing towards that.
Right.
I just, again,
Slowly we're
until-
progressing towards
well,
it. Yes, we are.
I would hate for a student to not take it, knowing it was digital, and knowing that their telephone service is turned off in the middle of the month, so they might not have access to internet.
We give Mr. Khan's home phone number. Okay, any comments from the board? All right, we have a motion and we have a second student vote.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, calling for the board vote. And motion passes 6-0 and 1. Okay, moving on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yes, thank you very much. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to leave you hanging there. I appreciate that.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like.
Or not.
Or not. Thanks again.
Okay, consent agenda B, student discipline cases.
Mr. President,
Ms. Stockton.
I move approval of item B1, B2, and B3.
Thank you, sir. I have a second from Mr. Heberly. All right. Students don't vote on this. Calling for the board vote. Again, we have 6-0 and 1. Other action items. Item OAI-1, paid lunch equity price increase. Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Before you is an action item that requires board approval in order for the district to comply with Section 205 of the 2010 Healthy, Hungry, Free Kids Act. In essence, our paid students' lunches must go up in price in order to be equal to that reimbursement that we receive from the federal government. And accordingly, at the price that adults pay for district-served meals must go up as well. The proposal in front of the board is 25 cents per meal per student and 50 cents per adult per meal.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I'd move approval of this item.
Thank you, Ms. Dawkins. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. Motion and a second. Are there any questions of Mr. Khan from the board? All right, questions or comments from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Have you guys
Can you step up, please?
taken into consideration how many students are going to be missing meals because of this?
This is a requirement, is my understanding. Mr. Khan, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
It's in order to comply with the Healthy and Hungry Free Kids Act. Plus, it's just for paid students.
Just for paid students. And if we don't do this, then we stand to lose
Federal funding.
federal funding for the free and reduced program, which would amount to several $1 million.
There's nowhere else you could get the money from?
No.
Okay, just a
But
question.
thank you for, no, I appreciate that. Comments from the board?
Yes.
Sir?
I totally get where you're coming from. Unfortunately, everybody has bosses. We have the state and the federal government. Some people would call it coercion, some would call it extortion, but it doesn't matter what you call it. There's just no option. We have to follow their rules. So, I hear you.
Okay, other comments? All right, seeing none, calling for the vote. Student?
Aye. Aye.
Board? And motion again passes 6-0 and 1. Personnel matters, Mr. McKelligan.
Mr. President, routine personnel matters are presented for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. McKelligan. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve personnel matters.
Second. Thank you, gentlemen. Team again. Students did not vote on this. Are there any discussion by the board? There is none. Calling for the vote. Motion passes once more, 6-0 and 1. Communication. Students, you're on. Who's going first?
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. My name is Melissa, and I'll be presenting the report tonight for McNair. On the Wednesday of finals week before spring break, Lane Crew hosted their Kool-Aid Cram to help prepare any struggling students with studying and homework. And also before break, one of our staff members, Mrs. Thompson, hosted the annual Spring Fling, which is basically a co-ed volleyball tournament. Student government is currently planning our highly anticipated and very first multicultural assembly, which will be this Friday, and we will celebrate the cultural diversity that makes our school so special. Next Friday, our annual boys volleyball tournament called Peach Buzz will finally take place. And on the week of finals, our advanced choir went to every classroom to give a short performance of 2 love songs, Stand By Me by Ben E. King and My Girl by The Temptations. And I'd like to recognize 2 seniors, Angel Lopez and Miguel Huiltron, who were selected to play in the 8th annual San Joaquin Soccer Alliance Senior Showdown. And what this competition is basically a game between the North and the South. The North being seniors from the San Joaquin Athletic Association and the Tri-City Athletic League, and the South being players from the Valley Oak League. And the team which our seniors were on, the North, actually won 4-0. And upcoming activities and events that we have are prom, senior sunset, and senior awards night, which will all take place in May. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Melissa. Joe noticed that she was using her phone for that?
Yeah.
She was being all digital.
All digital.
All digital at that time, that's right.
I admire that.
But she's young.
She's young. My eyes could not see that screen.
See that far.
Okay. Jasmine.
Hello, Dr. Washer, President Neely, and members of the board. My name is Jasmine Villanueva, and I'm representing Tokay High School. This week, we're actually having our every 15 minutes program. So on Thursday, we're going to have our simulated car crash, which I'm actually a part of, so I'm really excited for that. And on Friday, we're having our assembly. And then, so you guys are invited if you guys would like to come. I'll be there. And then we also had our PBIS awards that were given out. And students were recognized by the staff for showing their personal accountability, respect, integrity, diversity, and excellence. Our student government class is planning our Mr. Tokay pageant again. And the last week of 3rd quarter, we had our week of kindness where we put notes inside balloons and then we filled them up with helium and then we handed out to kids like during both lunches, which was really nice. We also had a compliment table that Friday, and then we had a big poster where all the students came over and then they just wrote kind notes on it. And then I also put together this thing where every student in the class, they recommended 2 people to go out and then just talk to kids who were sitting at lunch like alone, or like who just didn't have very many people to talk to. So all of us went out, so we all got together the day before and we had a meeting and we told everyone like what our plan was and what we were trying to accomplish. And then that Friday we went out and then we just went and talked to so many kids and it was really good. It was really, really nice. And then our Tokay jump line and winter guard took 2nd place at 2 competitions. And I would like to recognize our student government class for how well our WASP visit went. they really saw like how well we worked together, and then it really like motivated our class to do so much more, because like I don't think that all of us noticed like how well we like put things together, and like how like motivated we are to do more things like with students, and like just getting people to like come together and like just be happy and like having a good time at high school. And then our upcoming events is our state testing, April 19th through the 13th. Our comedy sports have a senior versus staff game on April 20th, and we are planning our men's volleyball game. And that's all.
Thank you very much. Every 15 minutes, I was there last time you guys did it, and the student rep was the one that got put in jail. She had on the jail.
Oh, that would be me.
Yeah. I got some great pictures of that. So you gonna end up in jail there like that? Okay, I'll be there at the camera. All right? Thank you very much. Anything from the board on that?
Jasmine, you missed something about a PBIS award. Could you go over that real quick?
Okay, so all of our teachers and all of our staff members, like our custodians, and even like the people that are in the office just doing like paperwork and stuff, they were all given 50 tickets every quarter. So they hand those tickets out to students who they're recognizing as doing like positive things, or just doing really well in class that like don't always get recognized. So I think it was Mr. Hunt that put this together, and then he went out to all the classrooms and he sort of like explained like what was going on and like what his plan was. And then so each quarter we have awards that we give out to students, and as well as each week and each semester, I think.
So if you see something positive, that's when they get.
Yeah.
Okay.
You should have seen Mr. Hunt's head snap up when you mentioned his name. He was like daydreaming until he heard his name.
He was asleep. He was done.
Sudoku, actually. I'm on a committee as part of that, yeah, so it's pretty exciting for us to see a kid. I saw a kid doing homework in the hallway of our administration building at 3:30 on a Saturday. And I thought that was pretty impressive. So, I mean, it's seeing things that are kids going the extra mile.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Anything else on the board? All right, thank you ladies very much. Comments from employee group representatives? Anybody?
Seeing none.
Do we have any employee group representatives here?
Seeing none.
Nice falling out of my seat over PBIS. Woohoo, it's okay. Good evening, President Neely, Board, Dr. Washer. I want to start tonight with two shout outs and recognitions of LEA members. The first one is to Victoria Bartholomew, who's at Sutherland, and her recognition is for PBIS also. Staff members feel she is instrumental in the PBIS process at Sutherland, and has worked this year on developing a yearbook for Sutherland and spoils them with some treats. So shout out to Victoria. The next one is for Kim Clements from Krista McCullough. Kim has been very professional in addressing her colleagues about safety issues. In fact, on Monday, she sent out emails to fellow LEA members about promoting school safety, keeping students in class, extra, early morning yard duty, making sure, reminding others to be out there on time, ready to go to supervise, asking for help from her colleagues with challenging students, and reminding others to seek out help from colleagues. You know that we had heightened security, so when a teacher takes it upon themselves to kind of help others around them be professional and be alert of safety issues, we want to recognize that. And Kim Clements from McCullough was recognized by staff members. So, woohoo! We'd like to also recognize Patty Kewen, an administrator at Mosier. As you're probably aware, there was a mechanical flooding issue that took place in the TK classroom, Susie Calhoun and Sally Stuckey's room, And Patty has been working diligently under many challenges of safety issues at her site, and still dealing with moving TK students and teachers to rooms that are safe and not flooded. And she's been following up with the materials those teachers need and making sure that the students have access and are at school each time. So thank you, Patty. We are very excited and look forward to the job fair on Thursday. And many colleagues have found that they are sending out welcome notices and go apply at Lodi Unified online to the job fair. We also have heard that this year we had a record amount of teachers apply for ESY, which is extended school year for our special ed students. So we are really excited about that we will have enough teachers to cover that. We also want to thank the district and Dr. Washer for the additional security that was out at sites that we have heard from both parents and staff members. In this heightened sense of safety and things coming up in our neighborhoods, it was appreciated that it was recognized and something was done right away and ready for Monday. We do want to work on the robocalls and phone trees per site to make sure that everybody is getting those new notices in a timely fashion, and I think we are working on that. So the rest of my comments have to do with report items tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. John, come on down.
Thank you and good evening. My name is John Hunt, LPPA President. Just like to remind you, last meeting I was at, everybody was already reminded that our unit LPPA is not settled in our contract for this year. And I'm just letting you know that we encourage you guys to look over the proposal that we sent through Mike, and we feel, optimistic that we can get something here pretty quickly. And I just wanted to make sure you understood. It's been about a year since I came to you last year. And at that time, if you remember, I had mixed feelings because in order to fill a psych shortage, we had to do certain things that I really didn't know how that was going to fly once the other two units had settled. And then they settled after us, and so we're looking for some things and looking forward to talking to you guys and getting this past us as soon as we can. So thank you very much, and look forward to that in the next few weeks and months.
Thank you, John. Okay, comments from board members. Let's start this way this time. Mr. Talkin, you have anything?
None.
Mr. Nell?
None.
Nope. Mr. Connexa?
Not this evening.
Mr. Freitas? You neither, huh? Okay. Well, I'm not gonna really, well, yeah, I am.
You got 3 minutes.
All right, Lost visit, I was at Tokay. Wow, that went great. That was I got the time wrong. That went fantastic. The WASP members that I talked to had nothing but praise for Tokay High, which was great. There was that problem out at Mosier, and there was some problems in the classroom with flooding. Michelle, would you check for us to see if that teacher or teachers who were involved in that lost any of their wall stuff, things that they had gotten, and we need to try to get that list in and get them reimbursed for that, I would think.
There are 2 teachers that share the classroom, and Patty has worked with district personnel about making a list. There was a snafu kind of the first day as M&O staff members accidentally, I'm going to say, threw some bags away where they weren't able to inventory. But they are putting together a list of personal things and all of the district things that should be in the room.
I think we pretty much trust them. They just write it down. We don't need, and then get that in, and then we can work on that. But that's all that I've got. Okay, I know, isn't that great? All right, moving right along. Comments from the superintendent.
Mr. President, I changed my mind.
He suckered me into that.
I know.
Go ahead.
It's real quick. I just wanted to let everybody know that we had on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, we had the Elementary Science Olympiad. And again, it was held at McNair, and McNair custodial staff and everybody else did a phenomenal job with, you have that many little bodies running around, it gets pretty messy. But they did a wonderful job keeping everything going, and classrooms were ready for us to set up and have the kids come in. Again, one of our schools came in first place, another one fourth. So that's great, and I'm sure it's going to be one of those spotlights coming up in April. And if you see the kids doing the Science Olympiad, and again, it's 23 events, and there's something for everybody, whether it's building or study events or problem-solving events, it's so cool. And the excitement is just like, all right. I used to have that kind of energy, I guess, but wow, they are something else. And it was just a wonderful day. So I wanted to make sure that the participants within our district got notified or recognized, and also that what a great job McNair did. And I think it's a great thing for our district to host the county elementary science Olympiad. I think that reflects well upon us. But I would just love to have more of our elementary schools involved. It is tough. You don't have to enter all the events. Whatever you enter, they're still going to learn stuff. It's wonderful. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Everly. Anybody else change your mind? Okay. Comments from the superintendent?
No further comments.
No further comments. Moving right along, we're at the...
No, you didn't.
That was good.
Oh, yeah, that's good. That was good.
Everybody's right on task today.
Yeah, okay. Moving on to the report section, we have 3 reports tonight. The board, there'll be no vote on that. We may give direction on certain items on here. We'll start off with Mr. Khan. Actually, Mr. Khan, we're going to do yours, and then we're going to do your proposed board revision, so you don't have to get up and move back, and then we're going to miss Taskis. Okay?
Thank you, President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Joining me tonight are 2 of our 3 Lodi Unified School District Safety and Security Team. Mitch Slater, our Director 3 of Maintenance and Operations, and you all know Mr. Adams, former Police Chief, Lodi PD. Missing is Rupert Asensio, our REMS consultant and active shooter drill coordinator as well. And I'd also like to mention our risk management team, April Juarez, Director 3 and Controller in accounting, and her staff members, Beth Claude and Jill Davis. Before you is a safety and security presentation by Mr. Slater and Mr. Adams, and then afterwards, after board comment questions, I would like to offer just a small piece of input and seek additional guidance from the board as well.
Right, well.
Welcome to both of you. Jared, good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Mitch, good to see you always.
Thank you. Thank you, Board President Neely, the entire board, Dr. Washer, for this opportunity to present district safety and security. Could you move it? Hit the button. There we go. Hey, did it by itself. We have numerous manuals and guidance instructions throughout the district. The one plan I found when I got here in 2007 was the injury illness prevention plan. That is what OSHA would look for. First thing if they came on deck at any school site is that plan, because they view it as a safety plan. It's continually updated. Since then, we've developed the heat illness plan, hazard communication, which is a plan required by community right to know, or chemicals in the workplace, a chemical hygiene plan, which you'll find in any secondary school laboratory, and the numerous readiness and emergency management for school plans. We have a district plan, emergency operation plan, many guides. There's about 12 plans in all that are associated with that. We work closely with the superintendent's office for the parent newsletter, and we've issued a site security manual, and we feel that we're pretty well on top of the comprehensive school site safety plan. Push the button. Is it- You got it. There you go. That is magically just rolling forward. Lockdown drills. A district organization of representatives from throughout the organization gets together and evaluates active shooter lockdown drills at 50% of our school sites annually. What we first noticed out there when we first were doing this, doors are open, people weren't paying a lot of attention to where we are today, where we rarely find an open door. We might find a door locked that isn't engaged. What we do during the drill is we actually control what is said. This is a drill, this is only a drill, this is an active shooter drill, this is a drill. Pause. Prepare your classrooms. Turn off the lights. Lock the door. Check to make sure the door is engaged and quiet the children. This is a drill. And then they repeat it again, and we go out. We found 8 outstanding sites last year. I'm very much pleased with the progress that we have and where we were to where we are today. Elementary schools have to conduct 4 drills per year, and secondary 2.
Mitch, what's a shooter drill?
An active shooter drill?
Yeah.
Well, again, what we do is we go out and it's emulating the actual event. We don't aggressively pound on doors or scare people, but we ask them to go in their classrooms, make sure the doors are locked, shut off the lights, and keep the kids quiet. When we go to the school site, we'll ask, where are the substitutes? So we can focus on those classrooms. We ask where their frequent flyers are, your unemployed comedians that like to cause you lots of trouble. We find those are leaders, and those classrooms are nice and quiet. Where are the special needs classrooms? Rarely give us a call. We've made a lot of progress. Fire drills.
Mr. Slater, can
Sure.
now the active shooter, are those the ones that, we've seen in the paper where we'll actually engage either the sheriff's department or local police department?
No, Jerry's gonna address that later. Our drills are strictly to rehearse the school for an unfortunate event that we don't want ever to happen.
We certainly don't.
Yeah. They also do lockdown drills besides what we go off.
Okay.
Elementary schools must, as you know, must do a fire drill once a month. Interesting enough, I don't know if you know this one, middle schools by ed code need to do it once a quarter. But wait a minute, the fire marshal wants you to do once a month, you'll do it. We have dueling fire marshals, and so there's different rules for different folks. And high school
Lodi and
folks,
Stockton have different criteria?
Yes.
Go figure.
Which one makes it to everyone?
I believe it's in Lodi.
Lodi?
Yeah, I think we've kind of enforced it throughout all middle schools. We just say do it once a month because it's just too hard to fight, and
Right.
they don't seem to fight.
So that's a state mandated thing, it's not
The
something?
the state requires you to do it once a quarter in middle school.
Okay.
But the fire marshal, as Ron, can tell you, do you want to fight with your fire marshal when it has to do with school? And I don't think I want to.
Fire code always has that out.
Yep.
They can add more, but not less.
Yeah. When was the last time we had a fire in school?
We had one at McNair 2 years ago, a year and a half ago.
So there's one in a room, a classroom in December at McNair.
Okay.
That's why they get ready, Jerry.
So for the next slide, I'm going to turn it over to Jerry. Also, Jerry comes to us as an ex-chief of police, but he was with the Governor's Office of Homeland Security. Jerry.
First of all, I'd like to thank the board and Dr. Washer for the leadership that you've all shown in making student and teacher safety a priority in this district. Quite frankly, there are some districts around the state that that's not the case. It's getting to be with everything that's happening around the country, but this board several years ago actually started a program of making it a priority, and I want to thank all of you for that. My background, most of you know, but 31 years in law enforcement and 5 years with the Governor's Office of Homeland Security, have really shown me, and I think we all know that nothing is more important than the safety of our kids, our teachers, our professional staff, and parents. And so that's what we try to do every day. What I do for the district, and have been doing for the last 4 years now, is I go out to each individual school site in the district, and I provide training to administrative staff on active shooters at their staff, because we all know that each, or at their site, because we all know that each site has unique issues that go along with that particular site, and just providing generic training doesn't always do the job. So this district has taken that extra step of saying we want somebody out on site to provide that training, which I think if you talk to most principals out there, they would say that that's been really beneficial. I also, while I'm there, I do physical security assessments of all the sites. I take a look at the cameras, gates, fences, entry access, all of those types of things, and then I provide a report to Director Slater every year of gaps in security or things that M&O can work on. I also coordinate in the last couple of years. This last year we did an active shooter scenario at Bear Creek High School with Stockton PD and Stockton Fire. And we also simultaneously did an emergency operation drill here at the district site, preparing district administrative staff, mainly cabinet members and people that would be in decision-making positions, the ability to see what happens during a real scenario and what kind of decisions they would be making. I'm sure Dr. Washer remembers Lodi Highs very vividly, because when we did Lodi High the year before, we had Lodi Fire and Lodi PD, and we did some extensive training at that time on getting Lodi Fire into a hot zone, which is a new training standard in the state of California, and actually very few areas have that right now. And we talked a lot about them, because kind of like years ago, Columbine, the standard wisdom at the time was everybody waited for SWAT to arrive. And prior in the last couple of years, the standard wisdom was well, until somebody with the shooter wasn't, location wasn't known, a fire department stayed outside even though you had injured people inside. We did training in this district 2 years ago on getting fire into that hot zone to get out injured people if they were there. And that's, I think if you talk to fire people or you talk to administrative staff, they would tell you that was beneficial. I also have assisted on reviewing classroom door lock issues and keeping classroom doors locked, and I will tell you that this district kind of leads the way in a lot of areas with that, because we've adopted a procedure of keeping classroom doors locked during the day. In actuality, we all know that from situations that happen around the country, a shooter can be on campus and in 2 or 3 classrooms before anyone even knows they're there. And so by having those classroom doors already locked, that's an extreme safety positive thing that your schools are doing. I also do school visits and security incident concerns, as you all know, and I'm sure you get emails and texts just like Dr. Washer does when something's happening in Stockton or in Lodi about there may be a threat or there may be some area of concern. A lot of times I get those calls too, and I'll go out and talk to the principal and try to help them through whatever's going on. I also assist to some degree with security product review. And of course, with everything going on in the country, there are a lot of products out there, and we're trying to be judicious in how we look at those and understand that you always have to weigh what's the best for security, but versus everybody has a budget too. And then I coordinate with local law enforcement agencies, Stockton PD and Lodi PD and the Sheriff's Office, on issues we have with local law enforcement. I still do know a few people in those areas. One of them I promoted to sergeant that happens to be the police chief here now. So there's a little bit on that. The bad news is no place can be 100% safe, no matter what we do. The good news is the Lodi Unified School District has really made great strides in the last several years. You've done a lot of things, and I have to compliment maintenance and operations. They have went out and the list of things they've done is extensive. For me, this is not just a job, as all of you know. It's a pleasure to do this for Lodi Unified. Actually, I had the pleasure of working with a couple of board members when I was with the police department. I actually had one of the board members was my tennis coach at Lodi High. And one of the board members was my daughter's favorite teacher. So, you know, I thank the board for giving me the opportunity to work with all of you.
Next slide, please. Each classroom has a disaster kit. I brought it today, would like to open and show you if you're interested. I could leave it behind for you to look at it privately, or I could just take it off to the sunset. Each one of these disaster kits is placed in every classroom and administrative area. They have an inventory. Sites have been informed of the methodology to replace missing items. We hope that they haven't opened it because I have not heard of a lockdown recently that they would need to get in here. Inside here you'll find food and drink, a modesty barrier, a toilet seat, things for toileting, first aid kit, and I think a whistle. A place to write inventory of your class if you happen not to have access to something. We are developing training protocols for the kit. Contact manufacturers, they have nothing, so working with technology to do a YouTube video, we should have that done before the end of school. I will caution that I'll be retiring and I won't be here when this stuff goes sour, but year 21, 22, I wouldn't want to drink the water or eat. There's food in here too. So. Next slide. First aid training. First aid training is available at Keenan website. It's interesting, easy to follow, talking head type of training. Each site was emailed this lengthy document from Emergency First Aid Guidance for California Schools from the California Emergency Medical Service Authority. And we are searching the possibility of providing certified first aid training. Sadly, at this point, after we put the news out for about 2 weeks, I've got 2 people that are interested. We're hoping to have more so we can put the class on. Final slide. These are our security priorities. Of course, single point of entry to limit people's access to school. We've done a good job. We want to do more. There's other schools that need some more attention out there. As soon as we are at that point, we plan to, the next fiscal year, do a lot of bit of work in that area. Classroom doors locked at all times. As Jerry reports you, that's what I'm seeing, and that's what my staff rumbles about at times, that they have to get into classrooms, they notice that they're locked. We're focusing on intercom fire alarm. Solution has been the Jive system. I invite you to go out to Lodi Middle. It's beyond belief how the system works and how inexpensive it is. A principal with a code or a trusted associate can go into any classroom and send an all-call. First, in old days, we had to put the crank into the intercom and kind of get it to work a little bit. It might work, it might not. This system is, our hopes are to deploy it, particularly where we have fire alarm intercom problems, get it out there to those sites.
If I may interject, nothing is inexpensive anymore.
He was about to give you away.
Sounds like a cheap guy.
And we finally have visitor ID system. You'll hear about that being rolled out at McNair, Lodi Middle, Delta Sierra, Millswood, Lakewood, and Heritage. It's called the Raptor system. Basically a badging system that does a little bit of checking on if you have molestation concerns and if there's a restraining order against you. Well, we should start testing. It'll be deployed next week, and we're hoping testing will start within a week after that, and we'll have decisions whether we're going to move forward with the whole district. The system is in just about all 50 states. So is there a question?
Yes, Mitch, did you install all the locks that we're got from Measure U yet, or are they still in process?
I was going to ask about that, Mr. Nava. On February 20th, the board engaged in a very profound and sensitive discussion about the tragic incidents in Parkland, Florida. At that time, the superintendent received direction to proceed with replacement of all the classroom door locks in the district, some 1,500 classrooms, approximately $750,000 in cost. On February 26, there was a meeting of the three-member Lodi Unified School District security team, 3 members of cabinet, myself inclusive, and 5 site principals. To a person, all seemed to feel that the existing door locks were highly functional and are suitable to protect our classrooms in a locked position. It's certainly not 100% of the staff saying that, but it is those 11 staff members' recommendation that we expend the money in other matters. The two primary interests at that point seem to be additional cameras and additional campus security staff. So I'm here to ask for, after this input, redirection to either continue with replacing all door locks, or if the board would like, we could offer a more intensive study of the types of door locks extant, or we could just simply begin planning for maybe more cameras. And certainly the cameras are a one-time cost, and the campus security are ongoing operational expenditures. But
Yeah, just, Mr. Khan, question.
But go ahead.
Are there some locks within the school district that probably should be replaced?
if they're not functioning, then certainly, but that would be more of a function of the routine restricted maintenance program.
Okay, thank you.
And those locks are pretty safe. And I like the idea, Leonard, that you mentioned that, you know, the security cameras and extra security. I think it's something that's visible there, that has some type of, that people that come into the schools have knowledge that you have to respect these people in order to come into the school grounds. One other thing, Jerry, on your coordinated active shooter scenario in the city of Stockton and police department and the fire department, you did this at Bear Creek. Have you done it in other high schools?
Well, the year before was Lodi High,
Okay.
and what we've tried to do is, we did one at Lodi High, the next year was Bear Creek. Actually, the plan right now is, and I'm spilling the beans because I don't see Eric here, but the plan next year is to go to Tokay High.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I want to say something to that. The Bear Creek exercise was unique. When we were viewing I thank the technology department, when we were viewing the film, that live feed from the school site, we could see that if there were an event and we could get into our EOC or activate their cameras wherever they're viewing them from, we could tell them where the active shooter was. They had the role playing going on. We could follow what the police are doing, and we could tell them it's behind that wall. Bear Creek has lots of cameras.
Great.
Question? On going back to those door locks,
Yes.
as I remember in the old days, that the doors would only lock by key from the outside, at Lodi High School at least. And so the whole purpose of the door locks was to be able to lock them from the inside. Is that?
If the door is locked all the time, it doesn't matter. And so that's what we're finding, is that we need to make sure that the doors are locked and that the locked doors are closed at all times. And then it'll be just as secure as having the inside locked.
That's exactly where I was going, is that if we make some kind of mandatory policy that teachers must lock their doors when that tardy bell rings. Of course, that's going to interfere with some kids that like to come in 2 or 3 minutes late, but that's, maybe that's a good thing also. So, okay, I'll just check out on
Maybe
that.
it cut down on tardies.
It might.
Yeah, I have a question. You had mentioned about the cameras, and I think that's really interesting that you could then, through your cameras, communicate where the shooter is, which leads me to the problem of communications. So then, how do you communicate that? Would it be through the 911 dispatcher, or how?
It's okay, I'll take that one.
Perfect.
Actually, when we did Lodi High scenario, we were able, we have the ability at the time to transmit real-time camera feeds into the police and fire department emergency operations trailer, where either a SWAT commander or an incident commander could be viewing some of that. We also had the ability here at the district office, and your IT staff did a great job. They had a whole bunch of monitors set up. We were viewing at one time, I think, 42 cameras. And so part of the training for EOC staff that was there was also coordinating with police and fire in their command posts and determining what type of feeds they may want. And so I think from what I heard from Lodi PD and Lodi Fire and also Stockton PD and Stockton Fire, they were both very impressed with the ability that Lodi Unified School District had to do that. Matter of fact, one of the lieutenants at Stockton PD was like, he was amazed. He said, you guys have a great system.
How long does that take to get that information where the EOC can, that you know that you can actually start the cameras and trying to track where the shooter is?
Kind of depends on who's in the EOC.
Yeah. Now, is that in this building or one of the portables?
One of the portables.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I would say within 5 minutes, they could probably get it set up and have feeds working. They're very talented staff. I was just impressed with how quick they could pull up.
Yeah, I was not aware of that. I like that. That's very good.
Mr. Khan, thank you for the wonderful presentation and putting together this great team. I worked with Chief Adams in Lodi. I've always thought his work has been first rate, and whether it's for the governor, for the city of Lodi, and I'm very impressed what he's doing for this Lodi School District. And M&O, Mitch, I can't say enough about the amazing work you're doing, because it's utmost that our kids be safe in these campuses, and we start with these fundamentals. And I think by being on the lead on our campuses and having a secure environment, that's going to complement our anti-bullying campaigns and our anti-violence campaigns, so that we're going to give our kids the best environment possible to come in and learn. And I, for one, you put together a panel, their recommendation is don't fix the locks that aren't broken. I'm with them. Let's put in more cameras, and I'd support that. So, and more other security devices. So thank you very much for coming here today, and thank you for delivering this very good news about our campus and our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas. I'll speak just a moment on those locks. I don't think the object really is to have new locks. The object is to have secure classrooms. So if I can get rid of people to...
You got mine.
Okay.
You got mine.
So that's your guidance on that.
Thank you. Mr. President,
Sir.
do you need a motion to change what we passed?
No, because that was guidance before. It wasn't actually...
And this is a report. So
This is a report, yeah. So just the guidance from the board will do on that. Chief Adams, I want to second what you said on that about what Lodi's doing on this. And I wish we could take credit, those of us sitting up here behind this, could take credit for that, but unfortunately that's not how it happened. Yeah, sure we can. This was told us, hey, we're moving forward on this. And I talked to a lot of school board members from around the state, and they're nowhere near where we're at on this. So I'm very, very happy with the way we're proceeding. The way that I see this is that there are three things that we have to do. And we have to restrict entry into our schools. And we need to get that to a single point, and we need to instruct our people that that's a serious thing. I mean, I've been up to schools and had my back and turn and hit the button, and boy, I hear that buzz and I go in. So we've got to make sure that we challenge people and do the right thing. I know people are trying to be polite, and that kind of thing, and that's great. But we just have to make sure that we do that. So on that, that's one thing, the single point of entry for everybody and well managed. The second thing we have to do is to be prepared for what happens when that security is breached, because like you said, nothing is 100%. So there's always a possibility of somebody getting in there. So we need those drills to be prepared for that. The drills aren't only for the kids, they're for the people reacting as well, to know where those sensitive areas are, those areas to hide and things like that. So we need to we need to take that very seriously as well. Drills I love the active shooter drill you described. You talk about this is a drill, this is a drill. If you say that so much that when they don't hear it, they automatically know what to do. And I think that's a great thing.
That's the purpose.
The third thing has nothing to do with you guys. The third thing is that we need to have programs. And Mr. Freitas brought this up. This isn't my idea. I got it from him. That help kids that not to feel bullied and want to react like that. We've got to look for these issues that kids have and try to address those issues. That's on us. That's on us, our counselors, our teachers, our administrators. And so we need to try to do something about that as well. Now, I want to come back to that single point of entry. Where are we? We're not there on all our schools. The biggest exception, of course, being Lodi High. How long before we're there on Lodi High?
Well, Mr. Slater's actually looked into an immediate fencing solution for the entire Lodi High campus. Sorry, I forget the dollar amount, but I believe it was just short of $200,000. So it wouldn't be pretty fence,
right?
But it would certainly secure the site. We are presently have an RFP out for Lodi High School's architect or design team. So there's that consideration as well, where we're about ready to tear down part of the school and build them a new school. At the same time, the plan for that school site will be to completely envelope the school. So we're caught in between on a budget matter only. If it is high priority to secure that school, we can get started on it tomorrow.
It's got to be a priority, I think.
Yeah, you know, it's fortunate that, of course, even if you're locked down, what do we do with the physical education classes that are out in space? You know, I've been to all the schools and there's kids participating in all kinds of athletic sports and that type of thing. You know, some guy, it doesn't matter if you're fenced or what, or you're locked down. What do you do, Mitch? Do you guys have a plan?
Can I address that?
You bet.
We, during our active shooter drills, we asked the question, does all of your outside people, anybody that's going to be outside, have a 32, 33 key or a key that will get them out the gate? Have you had that courageous conversation with your children? If they hear shots, are they going to get low? And if it's far enough away from them, get out the gate and get out of the place, get away from it. And we believe strongly that they are prepared. When we do our drills, a few years ago, multiple years ago, we had somebody loose with their kids circle in a building as we finally just stopped and let them run to us and said, you need a place to go.
Right,
And if they go and emulate that they're leaving, go by the gate and just sit the kids down, they're gone as far as we're concerned. They've made it out that that's the role. We feel we've really gone a long way with this.
Good, but that's, excuse me, that's for also elementary schools?
Elementary,
that's important.
middle, and high school.
I drove through John R. Williams, that's in Lincoln Unified, and there's these little kids playing on the sled and, you know, on the apparatus, and there's no security there. I mean, this is the number, they wouldn't know what to do. I mean, that was my thought, you know, and I thought, I wonder what the teachers are instructed to do when something like that happens.
Well, so what I challenge all of you to do is go around and look at our kindergarten fenced areas. When I got here, all 4-foot fence. Think of Lakewood, major street. Somebody that shouldn't be around the children, disputing the families, and something could have reached over and said, come here, and gone to the children. Every one of those fences have been raised. If I were the architect of the world, I would never put a kindergarten in front of the school. I would bury it inside the campus.
Right.
It's not, we can't redesign all of our campuses.
I feel better.
Thank you.
That's
not good, just make you feel better.
Excellent.
Anything else?
Yeah, well, it seems like on certain issues, we've kind of come full circle, where when we started putting up the I really like the fence, the black fences. People going, oh, you're making the schools look like prisons. And then the reality of the world happened, and everybody's going, man, those are some nice fences. I'm glad we've got those around our children. And they are nice. And granted, there is a school that might need temporary fencing, that's great. But we know in the long run what the end product will be. And I gotta tell you, Jerry, it's good to see you again, and thank you for your work. And Mitch, I've had conversations with you about fencing and security and that kind of thing, and I'll tell you what, from my view, you believe it to your core, that this is what we've got to do for our kids, and you've done a great job, I gotta tell you. So your retirement is off. But seriously, yeah, I get it. You've done a great job, and I like the idea where, just having a bucket of stuff it's nice to have it there, but it doesn't really mean much unless you train with it. You don't have to destroy and open every one of them. Like you said, you've got that video coming up. That's great. And
Thank you for not having me open this, because I don't know, Ron, I can get it all back in.
Spring out like a snake.
Yeah, no kidding. But I look at where we have come, and of course, I always look at egress and ingress and all that kind of stuff. That's my line of work. But and how you can get into something. So I look at it from a fairly critical eye, and we've really seriously come a long way. Yeah, absolutely. We're not going to rest on the laurels and do nothing from this point on. We're moving continually. So I'm real pleased with that. Hopefully, there are people that are interested in kind of being the leads for that at their site and kind of keep people rejuvenated. I do have a question about the district safety committee. That's an actual set committee with, they meet so many times a year.
I chair that committee. It meets once a quarter.
Once a quarter,
Once a
okay.
quarter, and you're all invited to come. Most people have a quorum.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and that's good, because in ancient times, it's been kind of ebb and flow of safety committees, but it is, people need to know if they have a suggestion where to go. There has to be a point of contact. Somebody has to be in charge. The safety committees, I think, are really important, and I want to make sure that we keep them going, and that's kind of part of it. If you say once a quarter, we know it's going to be there. So that's good. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You were talking about kindergarten. It made me think about where my grandchild goes to kindergarten at Julia Morgan. I'm not sure, Dr. Washer, you might want to look into this, but their fences, and I don't think their fence is very high. And I agree, kindergarten should never be in the front of the school, but this one is for sure. It's in the front of the school, and there's some kind of a policy now where the parents, they can only drop their kids off. They can't wait for them. So there's a period of maybe 10 minutes when doesn't seem like there's any supervision out there with the little kids. So you might want, I'm not sure if that's a fact or not, but I think it's worth at least making the phone call and finding out what their new policy is with the kindergartners. Once upon a time, the older sibling was able to drop her off. Now he can't, because nobody can go into that little area, which is a good thing, but there ought to be somebody in there before the teachers show up. Yeah, and as you know, Julia Morgan, that's the traffic is horrendous anyway. So you made me think about kindergartens again, and yeah, you're right.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna mention one more thing. I forgot. We talk about having doors locked all the time. If we're gonna do that, we gotta make sure that environmental system in that room works fine.
Yes.
Because I tell you, there's been many days out of Creekside, I propped those doors open and had fans going on them. So having the doors locked is great. We gotta have that suitable for instruction inside. Okay, any other comments? Okay, public, you were getting ready to leave. I saw that, you were poised. Not before Michelle gets a chance to speak.
Wow, yeah. First, to Mitch on the safety committee. Leah has a member that is on that committee and comes back and reports out to rep council of those safety committees. And information that is passed out has been very valuable to our membership, and those then reps pass it out. So we do appreciate all the documents that are shared during those meetings, and shout out to you for keeping up with that and being inclusive to all bodies. I'm going to regress a little bit on the PowerPoint. If we can go back to slide 3, we have some questions. It talks about 24 sites for this schoolyard, for the school year have been conducted. That's 46% of our campuses. Is this, why aren't we doing 100%? Is this, or do we do just half and rotate it? Is there a reason for that? And I guess that would maybe through you a Mitch question.
Yeah, I'll be glad to answer that. We do not want to do these active shooter drills. It's our decision. And we certainly would do what the board would like us to do once we get into the new year, because of testing and things that gets really active after the Christmas holiday. We try to condense half or 50% of the schools. One year we do 24, next year we might do 26 or 28.
Okay.
The first few months, and then always there, even though we schedule and we talk to the sites, oopsie, there's an event, they don't want to do it that day, the principal's out, really wants to be there, so we have to leave some dates, and we tend to move it further and further toward Christmas, and you get too close to Christmas, the attention span of our younger children is really not there.
As an elementary teacher, I do understand that. I guess that first bullet point then is only, it's not referring to lockdowns, it's referring to an active shooter drill.
That we conduct.
Okay, that makes more sense then. And you said with that, 8 sites were outstanding in their remarks?
Yes.
Okay, so we need to do a better job. It says that the elementary schools are supposed to conduct 4 active shooter drills annually. It's been brought to our attention that we're not practicing the outside active shooter drill, and teachers are concerned that facilitating, if we're at recess and this happens, do all staff members know because they haven't practiced it? And because I have to tell you, we've had at elementary turnover and new teachers. And so that doing every other year, sometimes you may not have teachers for 2 years having done that. So my concern would be just in the classroom, I think there also needs to be a practice at a school site outside the classroom. So we are familiar, just like a fire drill becomes second nature, not just for the kids in what to do, but also for the adults, that we're trained and we know what to do.
And nothing restricts the site administrator from doing that now.
Okay,
so we're separate from what they do. They're required to do these 4. Ours are in addition to that.
Okay.
We did do Bob Lofted decided he wanted to do a passing time drill at a high school. And I cautioned against it. I didn't want to do it then because I thought it would turn out bad. It was one of the best drills ever. The kids went into any classroom they could go into. There wasn't disruption. It got them in and locked down in a short period of time. So you're right. It's probably a good thing to do. But that would be a site administration question, probably through Dr. Washer to staff or something. It's beyond what I would do.
Okay, and with that, we're hearing that not all sites are doing those 4 annually. So we'd like to make sure that we're keeping everybody on their toes. We understand that safety is a concern, and we want to make sure that we're doing our part.
Can I address that? We do an annual report on all drills. It comes out, if you're blue or black, you're all right. If you're red, you didn't do them. Sometimes around the first year we do the first report, it doesn't look so good. By the time we get to the end of the year, it's pretty well done.
And where can we find that?
I don't know if I have that publicly posted anywhere. We provide that to the assistant superintendent.
Okay.
Right at the top of that.
Okay. So here's the big question. We're going to do a YouTube video on the bucket that's sitting next to you, which I think is great, because we were talking recently with members, they had no idea what's in the bucket. And so there wasn't a list provided, and everyone was like, I don't want to open the bucket, but if we don't know what's in there, how do we know how we can meet those needs? And we recently did receive the list. Our safety person also shared it on Monday with Rep Council, and we appreciate that. So I think those things that were talked about the last board meeting, we're working on and moving towards, and we'd like to see that. Thanks to the clarification on the fire marshal and Stockton versus Lodi, that answers some questions to members. With facility security priorities, through the chair to Mitch, we've been notified that not all phones in classrooms are working, and notification to a classroom and a classroom calling something in might not be working, and that teachers have been directed by administrators to use their cell phones. And we just like to make sure that if we've got a policy in place, because we have some sites saying use your cell phones and that's how we're going to communicate, and you're going to communicate with the office, and some sites saying no. So going forward, we'd like clarification on that communication from a classroom to the office, how they're supposed to do that. And as phones are not all working in classrooms, the direction has been staff use your cell phones.
The phone, let me address it. The phone issue should be communicated through the technology help desk, and they'll get them fixed right away. If there is, that would be a policy of communication, would be that of the site administrator, and staff needs to take it back to them.
Okay, so that's not part of the changes that have happened in REMS?
No, there's no
Okay.
direction on how, it's site-based management, how they want staff to communicate to them would be the vehicle of how the site is operated.
Okay, maybe that's where some of the teacher and switching of sites is getting lost. We have recently, we totally agree with the comments about the buzzing in of the door. We need to train people not to buzz people in automatically. They've got a badge, they get in, but so many times somebody is just buzzing in automatically and not checking what their purpose is there for. The monitors of cameras that staff is watching, some of them staff feel are inappropriately placed. Like if I was Miss Lynn, if the monitor I'm supposed to watch as people come in are behind me, and I'm watching the front door in the other direction, that's not going to be monitored well. So somebody hops a fence, I'm helping somebody at the desk, it's easier to see if it's within my line of vision than turning the other way. So we'd like to see some kind of evaluation where those monitors are located to be within the eyeball range of who's supposed to be monitoring that. And in elementary, it's typically the site secretary or the typist clerk. So we've found, and several sites have been brought to your attention, but I'm not going to say it here, but we'd be happy to communicate that.
I can take that real quick if you'd like. One of the things when I go out and do the assessments every year, we look at where the cameras are, and actually one of the things I try to do at every site is talk to that campus secretary, because usually, I won't say they're the ones that run the school, but they kind of do.
Yeah,
they kind of do, kind of like my secretary did at the police department. But I try to talk to those people and ask them, are the monitors placed correctly? And there are some that we've actually recommended this year be changed. And Mitch's folks have done a really good job. They went out and changed a bunch of them, along with IT and along with the vendor this last year. Also, one of the things that's in the report is adding additional monitors, as Mitch knows, so that you can have them in different offices so that staff can view them. Because I'm a firm believer that monitors, the more eyes that can see them, the more chance that maybe something will be picked up.
We would agree with that, and that was one of the call-outs was, if on the campus security, shouldn't I have access and shouldn't I be watching those videos and have authorization to do that? As we've heard, some of those campus people are not allowed to watch those videos, which doesn't make sense to us. Tonight we heard about the door locks, and my members heard at the board meeting that it was going forward. I am very cautious with 11 members making that recommendation, that if we didn't have the 5 administrators from those sites that had the biggest issue with the door locks, then maybe we're not hearing the concerns. So I would caution going forward without doing something. Maybe we need to pull a larger group from where the complaints came from. And the last point tonight is, as a teacher, training my students how to be safe, whether it's tying their shoes, washing their hands. Unfortunately, security and a secure campus is important. As we talked Monday with reps, we talked about teachers need to be the active role models about not opening the gate. And I share, I was heading to Bear Creek for a meeting, and some very polite young thing, oh, hold on, I'll get the door for you. And she opens the gate for me. I did go straight to the office and check in, but then as I walk out, there is a giant yellow sign that says, students, do not open this gate. Now, maybe they saw my lanyard that said LUSD, I don't know, but I think part of it is coming up with maybe some standards that teachers are starting to teach our students. Like at home, you don't open the door, even if it's Uncle Joe. You let the office open the door. You let that person be buzzed in. So that education piece, I think, we need to come up with something, and maybe that's on the safety committee, maybe it's teachers brainstorming together, what are the things that we need to do at what grade levels, like the tech committee. But again, it goes back to maybe coming up with also a curriculum that says, if I see something, if I hear something, I need to say something. And I was really disturbed Monday night when I heard from a teacher that a young lady who reported something was being bullied for it and felt she needed to be at a new site. So I think culturally, as a school district and as a school site, we need to make sure that we have a safety net for those students that do come forward to make our campuses or other campuses, if they see something on Snapchat or Instagram, to make sure they are saying something to a person right away. So I think curriculum-wise or education-wise, I think we need to embrace that to go forward so we're all on the same page for also our students in education and the safety concerns. Because unfortunately, we can't just turn off the TV and they don't see it. Our kindergartners are exposed to it on TV at all times. So if we talk to them at a developmentally appropriate level, I think we'll reduce those high school kids that are being friendly and opening doors. So, thank you.
And Michelle, before you step down, the bullying thing you just talked about, we need to, I want to talk to you about that. I don't care what it's about, we can't tolerate bullying for anything at any level. So,
Agreed.
and the only way that we're going to address that is we've got to speak about it. We've got to talk to each other, we've got to give names, and we've got to handle it. Every time it happens, we got to handle it. So I'd like to talk to you about that afterwards, okay?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. Martha.
Good evening again. I, as you know, teach at Kristen McCullough Middle School. From the bottom of my heart, and the teachers that I represent at Kristen McCullough, thank you for all that you did yesterday. You were awesome. One of the things I know from a teacher next door to me, she has a student that attends a Lodi school. You did not leave any school site unattended in safety yesterday. Kudos to you all on that, because she had her husband, who happened to be off, go to her son's elementary school 3 or 4 times yesterday just to check. And as he walked the dog by Lodi High, the golf cart folks came by and said, hey, you just walking your dog? That's awesome. So you took care of each and every school in this district as well as you took care of my school. The thing that Michelle mentioned about we need to practice with our students, today in my classroom, because most of my students were back, we kind of had low attendance yesterday. It was really quiet. But I asked students in several classes as I reviewed tonight's presentation, what do you call an active shooter drill at our school? Many students said, oh, we get down underneath the desk and we look at the gum. We're quiet. We turn out the lights. We lock the door. And what they did not say is that if we were to need to get off campus, the Florida people, they put up their hands. We don't teach our kids those things like that. So I think we need to expand what we say we do in these situations. And again, like Michelle said, we need to make it age appropriate. Prior to us going on the break, safety has been an issue at Kristen McAuliffe in a number of ways. And one of my colleagues who was given a shout out tonight, Kim Clements, one of the things that she's written in a letter to the board, and Mr. Kirby is well aware, and by the way, he's a great principal, and he did a heck of a job as well. She says one of the things that we really could do at middle schools that would make a difference is to have 2 full-time vice principals, because our principal isn't always there. And the halftime thing, I know for a fact on February 14th, that halftime principal that we share with Delta Sierra, she got all the information about the 2 boys that were at my door that got past all the things, somebody let them in, all that stuff. And on Friday, the information that we needed about who those 2 boys were from Bear Creek High School was still unknown to our principal. So if we had 2 full-time vice principals on our campus, chances are that information would have been shared a lot sooner. So we need to maybe look at that, and that's one of the things. The other thing that I look at is I look at 2 open gates at 6:45 in the morning when my school does not start until 9 o'clock. The reason we have those gates open is because of our morning program. And I shared again with Mr. Kirby this morning that there is another door to use over on our fire lane that would take away that threat on our campus. And he understood, it was brought up at the leadership team meeting, that, oh, well, that can't work because it would interfere with the breakfast program. And so when I explained it this morning, he says, oh, that probably could work because it's the door that people use when it's voting day to come in and do that. And it's also the door that our students go out to the basketball courts on that has nothing to do with the food service. So he says, yeah, and we already got a camera out there, so yeah, we could probably set something up like that. So he's going to investigate that. So it does come back to communication with your site administrator. And like myself, I have to get a lock fixed on my door because you really have to pull it really hard to make sure it actually catches right now. But again, I want to give you kudos. And I want to give my principal kudos. And I want to give Don Howard, my Energizer Bunny Vice Principal, kudos for all he does. And certainly Maria Mack as our halftime VP at our school. They're an awesome team. We got an awesome staff. And we're working on it to make sure that our students are safe. But we do need to train our students, again, don't open the gate. We need to train our office staff to make sure they look up behind them at that monitor before they press the button to let somebody come on our campus. So again, thank you for all that you've done for us in keeping our schools safe.
Thank you, Martha. Martha brings up a good point about training people to do the right thing. You guys remember when we could, get out of an airport and run to the gate and jump on the plane? Yeah. That doesn't happen anymore. Okay. Nice. There we go. We need to maybe change the way that we do things. And I know that some schools are open early in the morning and parents just walk kids in, all that, and there's nobody there. So maybe those are some of the things that we need to take a look at. And we need people to speak up at their sites about what's wrong and what we can do. So, Dr. Washer, that's on you. Okay, anything else? Gentlemen, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for everything you've done on this. That's
Thanks,
great.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leonard, you can stay right there and get this one done. I think this is going to be quick.
Not that this is a repeat, the board, actually, in the info, 2 months ago, we pulled it to add health educators to the language in the board policy. That is it.
Okay.
And I believe the LEA president was interested in making sure that any health educator that wanted to participate felt welcome. And we will return this on the 24th for a vote to ratify it as a policy.
Perfect.
Question?
Sir?
We have a school wellness council or committee, whatever.
Committee.
Committee?
Yeah. Run by Nancy Rostamelli, our Nutrition Services Director.
Okay, very good. I've not heard of that committee, so.
We'll get you on the robo-dialer.
Here we go. All right, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Khan.
Mr. President.
Sir?
We have 2 more items on the agenda tonight, and we've passed 9 o'clock. And one item is presented by employees of the district. The other is Mr. Patrick item that he is not an employee of the district.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest that we take his matter first as opposed to, if we're going to drop one of these items, I hate to have Mr. Patrick come back, having waited here for 2 hours.
No, I agree with you. That's good.
So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, do I have any objections on that?
Mrs. Kukowski said.
I can stretch it out quite a bit.
I looked at the PowerPoint presentation, and
Yeah.
it didn't look like it was going to be fast.
Lots of questions. Michelle's going, yeah, we all have lots of questions on that.
Maybe we could table that to our next meeting or a more convenient time. Or
Right.
does
You
that have
okay
to
with
be
that?
acted upon tonight, Ms. Kukowski?
Is there a timeline?
There is no time-sensitive information at this. This is just information for you. So.
Let me tell you what the story is on this, is that I asked the superintendent to make sure we had something on student achievement on every agenda for every board meeting. That's what this is. And it's an excellent report. You did a great job on it, but I got a ton of questions.
Okay. So are we coming back or?
We're not gonna let Michelle talk. We got a ton of questions.
Okay.
Would you like to table it now, or so
Let's
that
just-
they know, or do you want to wait?
No, we're not gonna table it now. We're gonna
Okay.
let Mr. Patrick
Yeah.
begin, and then we'll go from there. As Mr. Patrick comes up, please give me attention. I'll tell you something. This is it's almost a proposal. In fact, I'm gonna call it a proposal, although we cannot take any action on this tonight. It is a board discussion item. It's not an action item. At the end of this, there are 4 things that the board can do. You can ask the superintendent to bring this back on a future agenda as it is. We can ask the superintendent to bring it back on an agenda with some stipulated changes. We can bring it back for further discussion at another time, another meeting, or we can take no action at all. So those are going to be the 4 options that we have on this. Do you agree with that, or do you want to change that?
That's perfect.
Okay. We'll let Mr. Patrick make his, well, actually, this is under Dr. Washer's name, so I'm going to let you start.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. This is a proposal that is coming forward from a community member. This is not a staff proposal or a staff recommendation. So he has followed the process to get an agenda item on the agenda, so I will turn it over to Mr. Patrick.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you, board members, for rearranging the schedule. That was very kind of you. I'm here tonight to discuss with you and to present or recommend an approach to dealing with the high suspension and expulsion rates of African American students. And so I'm recommending the creation of a community suspension and expulsion committee. The objectives would be to provide, well, Okay, thank you. The objectives would be to provide support to the district in these areas of suspension and expulsion, to serve as an advisory committee along those lines, to assist in identifying negative trends and applications as these current policies are applied, but also to assist in improving the confidence level of African American parents in the process, to aid, lastly, the grouping of offenses into proper offense categories. I don't think anybody would disagree that this problem is not just a school problem, but it's also a community problem. And as a result of that, if you take a look at the chart there, the members that are being recommended to make up this committee come throughout the community throughout San Joaquin County. As a matter of fact, some are elected officials and others are just community members. The community, we believe, the other people who work with me on developing this, we believe that the community suspension and expulsion board should become familiar with the district's and state regulations for suspension and expulsions, to meet quarterly in 3-member teams and serve a 2-year term. That way nobody gets burned out. Review group suspension and expulsions statistics by suspension, expulsion categories, and refer some cases of concern to for recommendation to the child welfare and attendance for reevaluation. One of the next oh, I'm sorry. One of the things I want to emphasize is the expulsions. Expulsions are serious. I think everybody would agree on that. And for that reason, we're recommending that this committee review all expulsion cases before students are officially expelled and make a recommendation. And I want to highlight that this is not in an effort to do the district's job, but to assist the district, to serve as an independent, a second eye. And I'll make another comment about that later, but also make recommendations on how to improve the process, which is going to be a natural occurrence of this committee. To recommend steps for reentry of students back into school, give special consideration to those students who would also participate on this board, as well as parents who have had students during the year to be expelled. Interview them on an annual basis to get feedback, and then submit an annual statement to the district as to our perception of the progress that's being made in this area. But we also believe that the district should have some responsibilities in this area, and one of them would be to brief the committee on district and state regulations concerning suspension and expulsions, to give committee conditional access to necessary data. Now I'll talk about this more on the next slide, but we don't need sensitive data. I realize that most of the data involving students will be sensitive. We don't need sensitive data, and I'll make a comment about that later. But also to receive the results of the report rather, from the interviews that we do of 5 parents of students who have been expelled or in some suspended, and also act upon cases of concern that have been referred to the Committee for Reevaluation. We believe that the district should receive and respond to the committee's recommended steps for reentry into school, to respond to the committee's recommendation on expulsion cases before students are officially expelled, and also to receive and respond to the annual report that would reflect, not really a report, but the results of the interviews of parents students who have been expelled and suspended, as well as those students, and provide the committee with a meeting place within the school facility for, preferably in Stockton, to meet and do this. And the next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, the data, as you already know, for most students most of the data is going to be sensitive, but this committee doesn't need sensitive data. We don't need to know, for example, social security numbers, names, IDs, any of those things, any personal identifying information. We simply need, all of that stuff can be blotted out. We simply need to be able to look at the data and the statistics and to make some recommendations. We consulted the National Forum on Education Statistics. One of the things that they do is they produce a list of case studies addressing ways to share student data with entities such as what we're recommending here, serving as a committee that would work alongside the district. There are several different case studies, but we selected the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act guidance, which talks about sharing of data. And I also included an attachment with that. In summary, I simply want to say that reemphasize that the suspension and expulsion of African Americans is still high. The objectives of the committee is to assist the district in bringing the situation under control. The committee doesn't need access to sensitive data. I welcome any input from the district on modifying this to make it more effective, as long as it's served or as long as it's still implemented as an independent committee. And I want to make a comment about that now, independent committee. I think is really important. I retired 3 years ago, 42 years of federal service with 3 different agencies. And I can tell you, 3 different federal agencies, and I can tell you that at any given time in any agency, when I heard criticisms, complaints, I was there and ready to defend them, because I knew the agency and I understood what the agency did. And it wasn't until I left any of those agencies that I could see the problems. And I share that simply to say that this recommendation is not to do the job of the district. It's to help. As a second eye, there are situations, for example, that I'm sure when an expulsion could go either way. An outside eye can look at it much differently than within the frameworks of those people who are all employed by the district. That's just reality. And I think it would be a very, very useful resource in helping to alleviate this problem. So, with that said, I look forward to hearing from you, and I strongly urge you to adopt this. And thank you for your time. And I can answer any questions that you may have at this time, or if you don't, then...
Thank you, Mr. Patrick. I'm going to turn it over to the board for questions in just a moment.
Sure.
But first of all, I want to say that, I've known you for a number of years, back to Creekside days when you had the mentoring program out there, which it was quite successful in the area. I want to thank you for all the interest that you have shown in trying to help our kids. I know that's exactly what it's about, and I greatly appreciate that. I also appreciate you coming here tonight, because your explanation is, I see it much differently now than when I saw just the framework.
Okay.
I'm pointing my computer because I've got it up on my computer here.
Mm-hmm.
So, your point is well taken by this district. And I've talked to Dr. Washer many occasions on this very thing. She's working on it, she's got the district working on it. I want you to know that we're not ignoring the problem. It's an interesting scenario you put together here, and I do want to, I have some questions too, but I'm gonna hold off on that, see if there's anything else from the board here. But again, thank you for what you do for us.
Thank you.
Anything, board members?
Yeah.
Please.
Well, so if I'm understanding this right, you would like to have an outside committee made up of the mayors of Lodi or Stockton and city council members and parents review student discipline cases?
That is correct. The data, and in the situations where expulsions are involved, to review the expulsions also before they actually take place, just to provide some input, because again, sometimes a second look or from an independent source can make a difference. And
so basically what I'm hearing from you is that you don't think the district staff is doing their job.
well, I hope you didn't get that.
That's what I'm getting.
Okay, here's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that in any organization, there are guidelines and frameworks by which the members of that organization must operate within. And all decisions that are made by individuals within an organization are influenced by the organization itself. None of the people on this external committee would be employees of the district. As a result of that, we would be able to look at the same case and provide, in some cases, input that would be overlooked in the district. This is not to say that the district is not doing its job. It is to say that the problem with African American students is out of control. They're more than 7 times more likely than any other students to be suspended or expelled. That's a problem. And I'm here tonight to help resolve it, not to do the district's job.
It seems awfully unwieldy to me to think that, looking at your organization chart, that you would get the mayor and city council members and some of those folks to be involved with this. Now I can tell you, only being in the district for my entire life, but being on this board for a little over a year now, is that the district staff does a great job in going through discipline problems. And I can tell you for a fact the people who make the final decision are sitting up here in front of you right now, and there's never a time when those decisions are not beat to death in closed session before a decision is made. So, I mean, whether you know that or not, I'm telling you that a lot of thought goes into this and nothing is automatic. But thank you for your comments.
Yeah,
if I can say something on that, because I think that as I see this, I told you it seems a little bit different to me now that you've explained it.
Yes.
You're looking for a way, you're not saying that the district shouldn't be expelling the kids. You're asking, is there, what's the reason that they're being expelled? What causes the action? And you want to bring in some community members to maybe look at that and try to stop that from happening in the future as well.
That is absolutely correct. To help with the situation, to again, a second look.
Right.
A second look always is beneficial, especially in these situations. Because remember, when a child is expelled, that is something that will stay with them the rest of their lives. If you can help to turn that around by establishing an external committee to give recommendations, not make the decisions, but give a second opinion, then I think it's worth the effort. And this is not about, you should not see this as an attempt to do the district's job.
Right, right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
In looking at your presentation, there are a couple things that kind of stand out to me, and one of them was already alluded to about the makeup of, proposed makeup. I'm sure it could change, but having students on it, I think might be extremely problematic. A couple of things, it says meet quarterly, and a lot of times that's too far out. The kids have already, and it says review all expulsion cases before students are officially expelled. Well, you can't wait quarterly. I mean, we get expulsions, we get readmissions every single closed session, it seems like.
And some of those are ones that cannot wait. That have to be acted upon immediately. No, that's a good point.
Some expulsions are mandatory. That's just not our rules, that's just the way it is.
Right, and I understand that. There's zero tolerance, right?
We've talked about it before.
Yeah.
I'm sure you get that. So the time sensitivity of review versus expulsion, it needs to be done sooner than later, because really there's not much for them to do until they're not on campus, till they get expelled and placed at another school, because then that would be lost educational time.
Yes.
And a lot of it is that what I don't want is I don't want the standard of behavior to be this somehow moving target depending on X, Y, and Z. Okay? The expulsion standard is the expulsion standard. Okay? Now, the behavior begets the consequences. And this is one of those things, so many issues, they seem kind of simplistic, but there's a multitude of things that tie into this. And I'm sure you're aware, you're a community guy, you talk to people. It could be anything, there's millions of examples, but I don't want to see any flexibility in, well, yeah, we'll modify the standard in this case, but we're not going to modify it in this case, because then you're going to really open yourself up to some serious problems. And that is not fair for the student itself. So, one of the things that I look at also is, if something is good for one child, it's good for this child and this child and this child. So I would see this as something that would be more of an umbrella to review, basically all kids, not just group 1 or group 2, everybody. It has to be standardized. It has to be, and I mean, it had already been mentioned, we do not take the expulsions lightly. We go through the materials, we see what's going on, and like I said, behavior begets consequences. But there are a lot of things that may have caused that behavior. I think that's where the target is.
I agree.
Is where, okay, why did this student misbehave? What in the world is going on?
I don't disagree with that. You make a very good point, but let me respond first to the point that you made about the amount of time that would transpire between the time that a student is recommended for expulsion and the committee. What I envision is a team of this community suspension and expulsion board being on call for the month. I mean, not the month, for the quarter. In other words, they would meet. I couldn't put all of these things in the presentation. They would meet quarterly, but they would be on call with the understanding that they may have to come together right away in order to address a concern that you just mentioned, such as an expulsion, to provide some input, to review it. And one of the other comments that you made is about all kids. Every time you see me here, you're going to see me advocating for African American students. I'm African American, and I understand the problems that exist for African Americans. But every time that you see me here, or anything that this district has ever adopted that I brought, benefited everybody. Right now, the problem is that African Americans are expelled and suspended 7 times more than any other student. That is unfair. If we want to talk about fairness, that's unfair. There's a lawsuit right now because of the unfairness. The EOC didn't see that as being fair. I don't have a problem with addressing the expulsions and the suspensions for all students, but we have an immediate, urgent problem with African American students, and that's where we need to focus attention for a committee such as this.
It almost seems like the committee would, I'm sorry, Jim, that the committee's a little late by the time it gets to the expulsion state. The committee should be working on kids so they don't get to that point. I mean,
I agree. No kid ever in any school should be expelled, but the reality is that some will be, and some will commit actions that will require. Some kids do things that are just not smart, and they end up getting suspended or expelled.
I want to keep this conversation specifically on the topic that's on hand here, not what other things are, what we should be doing there. Mr. Nava, you had...
Okay, Mr. Patrick.
Yes.
Personally, I see this committee no purpose in curtailing expulsions for African Americans. I don't see that purpose. I think the better purpose would be for you to get the people that are involved from the African American community to come to resolve some of the problems why the suspensions and expulsions of African Americans occur. That's more important to me than to get a committee here that has no knowledge of what mayor, so, you know, it depends on if a mayor, an African American, then you got one there, but they have no, to me personally, I'm gonna say to you, and I've been in education for umpteen years, I don't see the purpose of this committee doing any good in double checking our steering committee and expulsions. I would suggest to you that you get a group of parents that have had students expelled from, you know, African American parents, to give input to this committee as to why this is happening to them.
I agree. You know, I appreciate the comment, but I respectfully disagree with what you just said, part of what you just said anyway, and that being that there's nothing fair about this process with African American kids.
How can you make it fair?
If I could just make my point. Here is the situation. A lot more goes into decisions or motivation for suspending and expelling African American students. It doesn't just happen that African American students are 7 times more likely to be expelled and suspended than any other ethnic group in this district. That doesn't just happen. If it does, it doesn't. There are reasons for it. You cannot take the same look at this problem. I don't care if you've been in education for 150 years, as a group of people who have a genuine concern and in many cases firsthand interactions with some of these kids. Now, I've known kids who got suspended and expelled for reasons that I thought they should not have gotten suspended or expelled for. You would see it differently, but if there's an external committee who also reviews this, you would also hear about that, the recommendation. And in doing so, you might just agree. That's the point here.
You know, Mr. Patrick, I'm a proponent of all students, and especially African American students, because I've worked with them before. And every time that the person is expelled, it's a concern of mine. What is happening before he gets expelled or she gets expelled? I want to know what happened before that. There are some consequences. This is not only, okay, we're going to expel you right now because you did this. This is an ongoing thing from the beginning of school, and we need to get some type of interventions. A group of African American parents could be helpful in recommendations of how this can be resolved.
Mr. Naldo, I agree with what you just said, but that's not what I'm here tonight.
Why are you here?
Tonight I'm here to recommend that this board look at a suspension, a community suspension and expulsion board. I'm not here to recommend that we look at this particular time what precedes this. We want to assist you in helping to reduce this problem, and we want to prevent more lawsuits, because there's got to be more. Why not address the problem? I mean, why not accept some help from the community in addressing this?
Okay, here's what I'm going to propose. First of all, again, you're right. The numbers are the numbers. We know that.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Patrick, you advocating for our kids means the world to me. And I thank you very much for coming here, because this is very important, and this is a very important problem. And, you know, we're not afraid to look for help wherever we can find it. And if this helps, I just had one question is, are you aware of any other districts that are doing this, or is this anywhere else in the nation that this is being done? So that we could kind of contact them or get some research from them, or?
You know, actually somebody did tell me a resource, but I will do some research, and I can get you that information.
Okay, I appreciate that. That was my question.
Okay, because here's the thing, that's exactly what I was going to say, is that I'll be your point of contact.
Sure.
On this, and I would like to find out where else this is working at, so that I can talk to them and bring back some information on that. Also, I would like for the board to look into this issue, and I think we need to look at some numbers and why things happen. There are certain mandatory expulsions,
Yes.
So where do the numbers fall in those? You know, what are the ones that we don't have any control over?
Right.
Okay? So I think we need to take a look at that. I would like to talk next week about possibly doing a subcommittee of the board on this. And I would like all the board members to think about that. If you'd like to participate, now that you can contact me on, okay? That's not a Brown Act violation. So you can contact me on that. And then next time, Dr. Washer, if you put that on the agenda as a board discussion item again. We're gonna, you know, you're asking for a lot here.
I know.
So what you get may help your cause, but not look exactly like this.
You know, I don't have any problem with that at all.
Okay.
And that's why I made the comment. I welcome any modifications that you would see that would make this more effective, as long as one of the key ingredients is that it can operate as an independent.
You did say that.
Yeah, I agree. No problem.
Okay. So let's start like that. Okay.
That's great.
First thing, give me that information, and then Dr. Washer, I'm going to talk to you about some information I'd like to get from the district on some of the things I just talked about. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
I got 1, 2. Can I get? We're just looking into something.
I am not in favor of the committee, like Mr. Nava said.
All right.
However, I'm more interested in finding out causes of expulsions.
Okay.
And
through that.
And that's everybody.
Right.
And I think through that in itself could be very powerful information as to what could work and what couldn't.
So I'll take that as a yes.
Okay.
Okay.
My answer is no, I'm not in favor of the committee. I am in favor.
Not of this committee.
Committee.
Right.
I am in favor of looking how kids, all kids.
Right.
I don't go by ethnic group or race, rich or poor.
Okay.
I go, why are they doing what they're doing? Do we have something that we can do through the community to teach kids proper behavior and responsibility? Because that's what this is.
There's another yes.
What?
I said there's another yes for looking into it.
Yeah, yes for what?
For looking into this.
Into what?
The expulsion rate of and the expulsions in general, discipline.
Looking into
Yeah,
suspension
that's where I'm
and
going with this for a
expulsion
board subcommittee.
issue,
Yeah,
not,
Not
I need to make sure I'm clear.
right. No, I don't have, there are not enough votes to go with this as it stands now. Okay?
You're interested in a subcommittee to look into the issue of
Right.
expulsion.
And I don't even think I need 4 to do that. But
But we're gonna put it on the agenda for next time.
for a discussion,
For a discussion about a subcommittee
Right.
to look into the issues of suspension and expulsion.
Mr. Patrick is going to give me that information back. I'm going to work with Randy on pulling some information about the suspensions, and we'll bring that back. So we got something to look at.
So the district could talk about our statistics for suspension and also our intervention strategies.
Yes.
We could have a report item on that.
You want that that's
It's awfully quick.
And you know,
Yeah.
that's going to be a quick turnaround. So
the next one.
Give us the next one.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Not the study session, but
In a
the other one.
reasonable period of time.
Got it.
But we're talking about intervention strategies, we're talking about suspensions, and we're talking about intervention
That's part of it.
And how about
And-
information about the committee that we do have in place? on
Right,
this-
with those
that would be one of the intervention strategies,
Enrique Rhodes, okay,
and any racial disparities.
got it.
Just so that I'm clear, where do we stand with the committee that I'm recommending?
There's not enough votes up here to pass
We
that.
don't have enough votes.
But we're,
Okay, is
But
there
we're
enough
going to
vote?
take your concept.
we're continuing the conversation
Right,
next month.
And so you,
And part and parcel of seeing how your ideas and what other districts are doing would work hand in hand with what you're suggesting and what we want to accomplish.
okay.
let's face it, Mr. Patrick, your goal is not to have the committee. Your goal is to have reduced expulsions.
It is, but I see this as a key ingredient. But we don't have to linger on that because it sounds to me like during the discussion you could come up with something that's quite different than what I have recommended, but something that would still accomplish what we're looking at doing. So
That's what we're looking at. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Washer, yours.
I'm sorry, do you want to say something?
I just wanted to mention that Mr. Melandro has some charts on ethnicity, percentage of expulsions, and we got it on the internet through
It's on our website.
the website. And it's very interesting because, you know, you compare the Hispanic, Latino, and the African American, and then that's up and down both ways, you know. So that's my concern also.
We'll bring that to the meeting as well.
Again, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Washer,
Yes,
years
sir.
ago, when I was out there at a board meeting, a lot of this kind of discipline came up, and it was really interesting how they had expulsion numbers. And then what they did is they pulled out all of the mandatory expulsions, and it really changed, I see heads move, it really changed the percentage.
And that's what I was talking about.
Because I'm sorry, you bring a weapon to school, I don't care what you are, who you are, you're out. So that would be something, part of that
Okay.
is what I'm looking at,
Good.
yeah.
Thank you.
I guess another statistic gets involved in this is the vast majority of these end up being stipulated, don't they? So how many actually go to a contested hearing in relation to how many people who just admit they violated the code?
Okay.
You know, Mr. President, one of the things that I think would be more helpful in this is to look at, in a workshop setting, with staff having some ideas on what we can do to counsel kids with regarding to their behavior. Because like Mr. Heverly said, you bring a gun, you're out, and I'm for it, I don't care who you are. But before he brings or she brings a gun, that's where, is there things that we can do in the school? And then if something does happen and they're expelled and suspended, is there something we can do with them when they're out of school? So that's what I would be interested in.
We're coming back around to this thing that we were talking about earlier, about the third point about school safety in general.
Yes.
How do you stop this? And so that's what it's all about. And I agree, let's start with a board discussion item. And then I like your idea of a workshop, but let's start with that. And then we can kind of more clearly define what it is that we want to work on, then we can do that.
Yeah, the problem, Mr. President, with the doing it at a board meeting is that can take an hour to 2 hours of discussion.
Right.
And that's the reason I'd like to do this at a workshop, if we want to look at what the school district is doing and what can we do with the community to help them keep.
I agree with you, but I think if we can just define some of those questions at the board meeting, and then we can go from there. And we'll cut it down, we'll keep it at 30 minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Sorry.
I'm just gonna tell you, we have some staff people that keep track of data and all those kinds of things. You said a board discussion to me is exchanging of ignorance, because those people know what's happening down there. If you have a discussion here, we're all exchanging ideas, and that's ignorance to me.
Well, I fully expect them to bring the material.
Yes.
If
Instead
you want
of
to
a
make
board
it,
discussion, I would like it better that way.
you're saying to make it a report.
No, just, get the people that know, bring them out there.
Well, absolutely, that's what,
Yes.
guys, that's my plan, is to talk to the superintendent, and we'll go ahead and decide what information we need to bring. We're gonna take a harder look at this. The thing about mandatory expulsion is one of the first questions I have, I looked at the information that Randy sent out. Some of this information that's on here that I looked at on the email that you sent out is great. There's also, some of them are based on numbers, some of them are based on percentages.
Right.
And it's a percentage that exceeds the accepted number. It's not the number, it's a percentage. So that's what we've got to look at. Numbers are one thing. So Randy, you and I are going to spend a little time looking at some of that stuff and bring that percentage to the board, not next week, but 3 weeks from today. That's the next board meeting, I think, right?
Correct.
The
We have
next
we have a
regular
study
session. We have one next week and the week after that,
Yes.
but that's a study session.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Sir?
I can see you wanting to ask a question and.
Before I forget.
Because,
Go ahead.
because I look at this as that information will come first. All of the possible resolutions will come down the road, is how I see it. Is that how you?
My initial question, Mr. Neely, was what I heard you ask for first was at the next board meeting, you wanted a discussion item to talk about a subcommittee to look at this bigger issue.
Right.
But then I kind of heard other things come into play about that discussion item, so I want to make sure that I phrase it together.
Okay.
Are you just wanting a subcommittee, or are you wanting to talk about the whole thing next time?
Here's what's going to happen, is you and I are going to get together, we're going to talk about this subcommittee to begin with, that's the first thing.
Okay.
All right, and that's going to happen before next week. If there's something on there, we'll bring it back to the board and let them look. The board discussion in general that we want on the subject is 3 weeks from
Right, I
tonight.
got that.
Okay, and in that, I want some reports, and I want to specify what I want on some of those
Right,
reports.
I understand that, I just want to make sure that we connect on what you want for the next one.
Right. The next one, you and I have talked about it before the agenda. We have a meeting on Thursday, and we'll talk about it then.
Phone meeting.
Well, we're going to make it a real meeting.
I'm out of town, but if you want me to
You
come
are.
back.
Where? Never mind. I won't say that. All right. Are you clear?
I'm good.
Okay. Then we may have to make this tomorrow then. Are you in town tomorrow?
I'm leaving as soon as you adjourn the meeting, but if you need me to come back, I will come back.
No. We'll work it out. Okay. Anything else? Moving on. Lisa, I apologize that we weren't able to get to that. The reason I didn't want to shelve it completely, because I was hoping maybe we could get some of it done. At least one part. You got 3 things there, and like I say, I'm anxious to talk to you about that.
Where else would you be?
Board Advisory Committee reports. Any Board Advisory Committee reports? Looking for a motion to adjourn? Move to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned before 10 o'clock.
I got that about 9.
Don't challenge me on that.